Welcome back to Block TV. It's time now for Traders Take, our chance to take an in-depth look at the markets and see what's going on. This week kicks off in an interesting one because, of course, last week ended with the main markets down massively, equity markets falling hugely off the back of further trade war fears at the end of last week. Did we see that turn into good, positive news for crypto markets? Let's take a look. We have with us our very own Joe Saz from New York joining us. Joe, what are we seeing in the markets here in the crypto sphere? Mainstream markets falling. Are we seeing the safe haven narrative play out?
Well, first let's start off with saying it's a pleasure to see you again. And
Pleasure to be with you.
To answer your question, I don't see it playing out here. I think Bitcoin's its own separate ecosystem. When I try to look for correlations, it's just that. It's searching for a correlation. I like a correlation to speak to me, to be loud about it, in order for it to be something that I'm going to pay attention to. So let's jump into the charts and let's start on this. We could look at SPX quickly and just kind of see what happened. This thing is looking pretty ugly. All right, maybe SPX isn't up here, but let's just take a quick poke our heads in because it had a bad day. And relative to, this is a bad day. This is Friday, so we're walking into the week pretty ugly. Bottom end of a parallel horizontal channel here. We have support at the 200. Historically, it's been supportive. More recently at least. This is kind of tough to call. I think trade war tension. I have a whole thing on trade, and we're not going to go into it now. But I think this whole play out is going to be bad short term, good mid to long term, and by long term I mean like 3 to 4 years max. Before something bad happens. But on to Bitcoin. So here we have this terrible activity and deep uncertainty. But even if there is the same in Bitcoin, I think it's unrelated. What I wanted to point out is basically, there's some notes here, by the way. This has been doing some educational stuff. But we've been having these ascending triangles. This is now an hourly Bitcoin US dollar chart. Ascending triangles with some pretty weak breakouts, statistical breakouts and tradable breakouts, but nothing really that significant. Now, all we're doing right now is creating another one. Went to bed last night. We had a weird little pump. It was weird. Here was the pump. Here's the follow through. We ended that small run up on a 9 sell, made it all the way down to another 9, and this was a 9 buy. And then we pumped way the heck up. So this is kind of a weird market. I think that this was more painting a technical picture. This is more of a pump in my eyes. So I think what we could be doing is forming another ascending triangle type formation here, but I'm not going to rest all my weight on this, just only because we're at the end of the week. The weekly close is going to be volatile as is. So anything can happen. This happened at 6:45, an hour, just over an hour out from the daily close candle. And so the daily close candle, let's take a look here. Here's the daily close candle. We were sitting down here, a bearish engulfing candle of this red 3. Now, a bearish engulfing candle, I think, would have instilled a bit more fear in the bears. So I'm expecting, that's what's gonna, if that's what we're playing, that's the game that we're in, volatile, manipulatable, whale pool type stuff. We're gonna be expecting some crazy moves today. So I'll probably be doing a live stream or something a couple hours before the weekly close because this has just been too crazy lately. But yeah, Bitcoin's looking, in my eyes, it's looking bad. I think we might have an accelerated trend here from this descending triangle forming to the downside. And I'm just going to point out the other time that this happened was all the way back over here. And I'm sure we all remember this beautiful price range when it was looking good to accumulate. But when we started to accelerate within our ascending triangle here, as we were creating it from a 3,000 price floor up to a 4,300 or so price ceiling, once we started to accelerate the trend, then we went parabolic. I think it's very possible that we're looking at something similar over here. I personally think that Bitcoin is harder to smash. It's not like a it's harder to smash that quickly than maybe other assets would be due to bad news or whatever external variables would cause fear on such a large, massive scale. But this descending triangle play out, I got to look at the facts. I got to look at the charts, and the charts are saying there's potential for a serious downside move. I know that Bitcoin's pretty resilient, so I'm pretty 50-50 how it's going to play out, but I do think downside overall is still the trend, considering this wider descending triangle.
But Joe, I suppose I've got to wonder as well, looking to the sort of bigger narrative here, I mean, in the wake of that parabolic move, we all said that we were looking for Bitcoin to find some sort of support, something stable that it could really build upon before the next big move upwards. Have we not found that at this point? Can we not say that around the sort of somewhere in the 9-10 mark, there is some sort of support that seems to be keeping Bitcoin in check, and that's proven itself? And here we are ready for perhaps not another parabolic move, but at least another steady incline from here?
Yeah, let me make a bullish case argument. Yeah, we found a floor at 9,100. That was the break from 14K. That was about a 40% move to the downside. And the bullish case would be we've been creating higher lows. So let's jump back to the daily real quick. I mean, it's clear that we had some support here, but locally speaking, since the end of July. So I mean, we're talking about just a month here. That's not too much support, but since the end of July, we haven't created a lower low. So what you can interpret this as supporting more of a pennant formation versus a descending triangle. It's hard to say. I think this is going to be a tough one to call, but we're most definitely making lower highs. This one breaking out through the setup trend line, breaking through the 50 MA, creating a higher local high, was a big fake out. Or we could just kind of be doing the same thing, or we could be going sideways. I would expect that the thing is, Bitcoin didn't fall as violently as we fell immediately off the parabolic vertical uptrend. So that's what's we didn't really create the descending triangle that everyone refers to until more of like a February 2018 ending in November 2018. So it was like a 8-month move, right? That descending triangle. We broke down here, and we've created some support, and this is looking kind of familiar. But our support from 20K was much lower. It was 6K, and that was like at that time that was about 70. I'm just kind of ballparking here. I'm a little tired from all this trading. I can't do the exact numbers in my head, but we had a bigger drop, and then our little instability, and then a descending triangle at a lower price floor. So I think it is interesting that 9K was it so far, and as we approached it, we've gone into reversal candles, these hammers here, pumped out, but then we fought the 50 MA and broke down violently, and then our attempt to move back toward it was completely suppressed, and now we're sitting on a pretty we're sitting early into the day. There's a humongous decline in volume. I think it's going to be an interesting day, and that's why I'm just going to be paying attention. It's really hard to tell. I mean, we know that anything can happen, but sitting below this 50 MA is uncomfortable territory to me, and it's mainly because the wider altcoin space has fallen much more violently from there, and we'll jump into those charts to show what I'm talking about and to see how much worse they're performing than Bitcoin right now. It's getting really ugly.
Do you see any hope in the altcoin space, or is it a bleak picture? Let's take a look. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, we're gonna do a couple things to show you what I'm seeing here. So let's start with Ethereum. We're just going to take quick runs through the daily, and then we'll do what I was talking about. This is what I was referring to, Asher. As we snapped away, we got, we went vertical. We moved away from the 50 moving average. It wasn't just a snap back. Once we got there, we fell badly through the 50 MA. So didn't even really find support at the intermediate term moving average, wrestled it for a little while, and then continued on to break through the 200 MA. Now let's so currently I would say Ethereum's still looking pretty bearish. And yeah, here was that pennant formation we were talking about with the flagpole, And so we probably still have a ways to go with Ethereum. I'm just going to draw this in quickly. Here was about the apex where we broke. We broke out to the upside before making new lows. I mean, it looks like Ethereum's headed possibly back to around $100. So let's just keep our eyes open for that. But Ethereum looking bearish, trading below the 200 MA. Now it's acting as resistance. We popped our heads above it, failed to, and I think this is just going to get worse. Quick look at let's look at this then. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. This normally would be my Litecoin US dollar chart, but it looks like I made here's the LTC USD chart. I've made some modifications. Now, here's Bitcoin dominance in this blue line, and then we have Ethereum in orange, XRP in cyan, and Litecoin in yellow. And you can see that I'm getting a little curious here. We're starting to make a couple of these. I'm only using about 3. I don't want to layer on 50 altcoins for their dominance, but we're at pretty much sub 10% across the board. Ethereum being the leader at 7%. Bitcoin is making some moves to the downside, and there isn't a huge move. This is what's worrying me, is altcoins really aren't responding as a team to Bitcoin's downside move. We're kind of going sideways a little bit today, but what I would expect is like some sort of hope in a space. What I want to look for is the parking lot. Where are people going to when they panic sell Bitcoin, or if they panic sell Bitcoin, right? Huge if, because there is support in these areas, low 10K, even into the 9Ks. We've fought this a number of times now. We've seen the Vegeta memes. We've seen the never seeing 10K again, or never seeing 9K again sentiment. So with all that fight going on, I'm wondering if we break down, what's the parking lot going to be? Is it going to be altcoins? Well, they're trading at the top. Some of the top 3 Litecoins are just over 10% of the market cap total. So are people going to panic sell Bitcoin and move their money into a different cryptocurrency? I'm a little skeptical of that. I would argue no. I just don't see that as a possibility. And the proof is the fact that Bitcoin has gained dominance at such a rapid rate to up to 70%. And you can see the move as it happened. It was so sharp. Altcoins were just dropping violently, and Bitcoin just didn't stop going up. So Bitcoin dominance, I think, is definitely a very important thing to pay attention to. Looks like alts are taking a tiny turn to the upside to Bitcoin's neutral action, but we're not really seeing a big move, and Bitcoin has been making big price moves lately. So I'm not seeing dominance really speak volumes in saying, yeah, we're going to keep our money in crypto. So I'm a little worried about the wider market space as a result of that. But onto XRP, let's take a look here. I keep getting curious about XRP because this is an asset that has probably one of the strongest HODL crews in crypto Twitter, in crypto maybe altogether. A lot of bullish news, a lot of bullish partnerships that sound pretty, but I think they're just kind of polished garbage. So anyways, we're trading below what was a very long-standing setup trend line right here, this green dotted line. That was all the way back, I think, to December 2018. We broke it violently, and this is what's really got me going crazy right now. And as you can tell in my voice, got me, going crazy with my amazing monotone voice here. I see this massive attempt to break the trend of lower highs and trying to get into more of our channel that XRP has historically fallen back to, even after breaking in other areas. This has been a pretty nice channel for a long time. In terms of stability and a place where you can believe that XRP will return eventually. Now, we are making higher lows. We're definitely on a lower high. This might have some sort of flagpole appeal, but I just can't believe this wick. This wick is gigantic, and it was completely rejected all the way back. I mean, the body of this candle is 3%, and if the body of this candle is 3%, that means that the wick accounts are probably about 15. The total candle is probably around 15%. Here's 11%, and this is a little bit smaller maybe. Oh, with the wick, it's even bigger. But we have, interestingly enough, we have no volume on that move as well. So as far as liquidity is concerned, this is kind of a weird move for XRP. And we have descending volume going into, kind of a pennant formation here, equal possibilities on both ends of that spectrum. So I would say I'm bearish for now. We do have a tendency to make our way back into this channel, but as you can see, we've been rejected once and twice. So I'm a little curious. We're going to have to pay attention to this, because the reason why I really want to pay attention to XRP is because there's such a intense hodl movement for this asset, and there's also such a violent response to its existence. Like, not violent. What I mean to say is I don't really see too many arguments with other cryptocurrencies like I see in XRP. It's like, you can argue about Litecoin and there's like a few people show up. You can argue about Tron and no one shows up. I really haven't had any Tron supporters jump in any of my threads when I bash Justin Sun or anything like that. When I talk trash about any other cryptocurrency, I can't think of one that has a more strong following, and I'm being very polite here, than XRP. And so it's like, what happens to them when all this negative price action starts to take over? And what are they going to say? What's going to happen if this guy wins the lawsuit that XRP is a security, and XRP has to get delisted from all these American exchanges? There's like a whole heap of what ifs on both ends of the spectrum here. So I think it's a little curious. I'm really curious to see how the support for an asset plays out with such bad press, potentially forthcoming, and more importantly, the good press having very little impact on price.
It'll be interesting to see how the market does indeed react to what could be potentially, as you say, a potential big downside move on the third biggest coin out there. It's a big one to watch closely. But I guess along with obviously all the intense potential price action there in Bitcoin, see what ETH is doing. There'll be lots to watch, but I want to thank you, Joe Saz, for breaking down the latest price action and movements, what's happening across the entire crypto sphere, wide shifts in the industry. Obviously interesting to see how that all develops. So stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news, information, and the best of analysis. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.